Welcome back to another episode of How My Business Operates. Today we're going to be talking about how to roast coffee. Of all the questions that I get asked, I think I say every one is number one, but this one is definitely top three. And that's how to roast coffee. How do you roast coffee? And now that's a very loaded question because I think people know that you roast coffee by heating raw coffee beans. That's pretty simple. But I think what they're really asking is how exactly do you go about roasting coffee beans? What all does that entail? What all do the different roast profiles mean? How do I roast a coffee light versus dark? Kind of going through cinnamon roast all the way down through Full City 2+, those really dark coffees. If you're gonna be roasting coffee, it's a very important question. So today I'm gonna go through how you roast coffee. But before we get into that, I'm actually gonna make some coffee really quick. Let's make some coffee. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So I actually made roasted at home. This is kind of I honestly don't know what this camera's gonna zoom in on or not zoom in on. This is kind of our just breakfast blend general, like all day, similar like an all day IPA, but for coffee. It's pretty mild, moderate. I would say it's medium roast, very, very medium roast. Moderate body, pretty much middle of the road. I'm gonna sit here and say moderate acidity, moderate sweetness, all of this stuff, but pretty much middle of the road coffee. But very good. It's like my take on your average cup of coffee. That's good. So back to what we were talking about. How to roast coffee. Before we get into the actual video, I just wanted to touch base on two things. Number one, I feel like looking back at these videos and watch them and I see that they're very short, there's not a lot of detail, and the reason is I don't want these to be a lecture. I want it to be more of a conversation. So if somebody sat me down, and if I was having a cup of coffee with somebody at a coffee shop, and they asked me, how do you roast coffee? I wouldn't want to sit there and lay out, well, okay, you see, as coffee goes through the Maillard reaction, if you stop at different points, you have different compounds that will dictate the flavor profile of the cup. Then we could also look at the cell structure of the coffee. And if they're dense, hard beans versus if they're light, fluffy beans, then they're going to roast differently. Those dense cell structures are going to dictate how we roast the coffee, which will then dictate the flavor profile of the cup based on how long we're roasting it and the compounds that we have throughout the roasting process or show up in the cup. And then we could get into varietals and I could look at, okay, you have coffees that are grown at high altitudes versus low altitudes. That will actually dictate how the coffee respirates, okay? You're going to have more oxidative respiration versus more lactic acid fermentation. And then that's going to dictate the flavor profile of the cup. So as you can see, these things get very, very in-depth, very detailed. And I don't want this to be a 25-minute lecture. Nobody wants to watch me sit here and talk about those kinds of things for 25 minutes. So what I'm doing, item number one, I'm creating a website right now, and I'm gonna put blog posts up there where I dive into detail on these topics. So if I make a video on the cost of starting a coffee shop, or a coffee roasting company, I should say, I'm going to make a blog post that is in depth. I'm very, very in depth. Links to the things that I've bought, links to the things that you can buy, links to things that I suggest you might look into, where to start, and maybe even like formulate my own like starter kit, not selling, but like, hey, this is a good kit to get started. Also today, for instance, how to roast. I want this website to be like a supplement to the videos to where you can go and get a more in-depth analysis. You watch the video and maybe you go, oh, that was interesting. I want to know more about that. Go ahead, go to the website. I'll have a blog post that is super, super, super detailed. And I mean, you'll have pretty much one-stop shop for all things informative about coffee. In these papers, I'm gonna have references, I'm gonna have links to other information, other sources of information. It'll be very, very detailed at the end. So the point of doing this is to keep these videos just kind of casual conversation, like we'd be talking about these subjects. And then if you want to, you can dive into it more by going to the website and reading the blog. And it's easier for me to kind of lay out my ideas when I get to write rather than just sitting here talking. Item number two on the agenda before I get into the video, and I'm trying to make this quick, I promise. I'm gonna start putting more things on this channel that aren't really revolving around coffee. I realize I do a lot of things, a lot of things. I have a lot going on, and I want to keep this series going. The reason I made it this series is so that I could diversify based on the things that I do and not kind of cross over and get disorganized with having just random videos. Rather, they're kind of in series, so you know you like to watch how my business operates. That's going to be about operating a coffee roasting company. And then I'm going to make videos more so geared towards what I'm doing right now with getting my MBA in real estate. I just got a position in Miami, Florida, doing real estate development. So I just kind of want to dive into those things, maybe do some more vlog style videos. I also am getting more into photography and videography, and I actually just got this new camera. It's a Sony a7 III. I still don't know how to use it. I have the Rode VideoMic NTG. So these are some of the things that I kind of want to get into, like giving my take on how I like using this camera, how I like using the microphone, so on and so forth. And then before we get into it, because I promise we're about to get into it, I want to make sure that people realize too that this isn't me telling you what to do. All of these videos are not my advice to you, rather they're my experience. And I just want to be sharing what I went through doing this, so that if you're somebody roasting coffee and you want to get a general look at what it takes or the process you have to go through to turn a hobby into a business, that you have something to look at and say, okay, at least now I have a general idea of what I have to do. And if you're somebody that's just adamant about home roasting, maybe then just keeping up with these videos, having new ideas, finding new ideas, sharing new ideas, going to the blog, finding some more detailed information. These are all things that I feel like are gonna be good for anybody involved in coffee roasting. I know I'm not in a position to be sitting here telling people do this, do that. I've never claimed to be, I don't claim to be. I just want these to be experiential, anecdotal, something that people can go to, like I said, to get a little taste of what it takes for these specific topics, like where do you buy green coffee or how do you roast coffee? And then maybe they can go on the website and get further details on those kinds of things. My goal is that you guys get something out of my experience, that you can take it, put it into your hobby. Hopefully it can help bridge that gap, that transition, make it easier. And again, feel free, please reach out with questions, comments, whatever. I'm more than happy to talk to somebody about what they're going through or what they can do. I got really behind, so if anybody watching this has reached out to me, emailed me, and I haven't got back to you, or I didn't in the past, or did and then didn't reply, I apologize. Man, that's good stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So how to roast coffee. Okay, we're gonna make this quick because now this has already been a really long video. The first order of business is, what kind of roaster do you have? Are you somebody that's just roasting coffee in a pan on a stove or in your oven? Are you using a popcorn popper? Like I said 1,000 times, I started with a frying pan and I cooked the coffee on my stove. Now, that's why I say all you need is green coffee and some source of heat, and you have roasted coffee. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be good. I'm not saying it's gonna be efficient or easy or safe even, but it's fine. It's somewhere to start. I encourage people, get over that hurdle of starting, because once you actually start roasting coffee, once you get over that hurdle of starting to roast coffee, then you're gonna get the bug and you're just gonna wanna roast coffee and you're gonna wanna get better at roasting coffee, and then you can upgrade equipment slowly. I'm telling you, I started selling coffee to my friends when I had the little Fresh Roast 500, which now I don't even think they sell. But you can get those kind of coffee roasters very cheap. And so I advise anybody, like, it's a great investment. They're easy to use. They pretty much do everything for you. And it's a great way to just get started. If you're on a budget and you can't afford that, which I think is around $200, I get that. Like, people are on very tight budgets. Go ahead and just order the green coffee and figure it out. I'm serious. You can Google how to roast green coffee, enter. And you will find thousands of things. You will find so many things. And if you want to, without a coffee roaster, you'll still find 1,000 things. Go ahead and do it. Green coffee, you could get maybe, I'll say the expensive side, $5 a pound, right? So if you want to roast, I don't know, 4 pounds of coffee, it's $20. You could just get one. Plus shipping, maybe you're paying $8. I don't know. Just do it. So then this is going to come down to, what kind of coffee do you like? Do you like darker coffee? Do you like more bitter coffee, more acidic, fruitier, more stringent and acidic? Okay, forgive me. What kind of coffee do you like though? Because that's going to dictate where I think you should start buying your coffee, because you want to start with stuff that you're going to like, and then you can move on and experience coffee that you might not like. I don't like dark roasted coffee. I still roast dark roast coffee, and I still know what it tastes like. I still know what good dark roast coffee tastes like. But I wouldn't suggest you start with that. I suggest you start with roasting something that you like, because then if you like lighter coffee and you're roasting light coffee, you're gonna be like, I love this. I'm gonna roast all the time. And then you're gonna get really good really fast. And then the other thing you have to understand is these roast levels get very, very in depth. And again, these are all things that I'm going to touch on in a blog post where I get very, very detailed. But you're going to have to look at the roast profile. Do you want to do very light, and it ranges from cinnamon to city plus to city 2 plus to full city plus to full city 2 plus to French roast to, I think, Vienna roast. It just keeps going and going. The spectrum is so broad. So make sure that you kind of look into more where you think you would lie on that spectrum and start roasting coffee in that general vicinity. And you can look up, I'll include in the blog post, what kinds of coffees roast or taste better at what roasts. And then find the roast you like, and then start buying coffees that kind of fit that profile. And then you're going to start running into the beans that are more dense versus beans that are what I call light and fluffy. So this is cell structure. These beans can be very, very, very dense and firm, and you have to roast them longer to actually get that expansion of the bean where you're breaking, cracking the structure of the bean. That's first crack. That's a light roast. So you have to make sure that you know, okay, these beans are going to roast longer and might actually reach a higher temperature before I'm at first crack versus these other beans that might reach first crack quicker and at a lower temperature. You have to make sure that you're not just roasting all beans the same, because they're all different. I like to say this: watch, look, and listen. Baby, that's my philosophy. No, you have to learn roasting coffee by watching it roast, okay? You have to hear the cracks. First crack, second crack. Those are the biggest signifiers of where your coffee is along that broad spectrum of coffee, or roast levels, I should say. Watch, look, and listen. Gotta watch it. It's gonna start changing color, but that's not enough. You gotta listen. You gotta hear what the coffee is doing. And eventually you just get better at this by doing it. Biggest thing too, when you roast coffee, no matter what you're using, keep it moving. The coffee has to be moving. I think if you're using an oven, haven't personally done that, but if you use an oven, please, if anybody's roasted coffee in an oven, go ahead and let me know, enlighten me. Put something in the comments saying, I roasted it in the oven, this is how I did it. Anything else, you have to keep the coffee moving, or else it's just gonna cook on one side. This is like anything else. If you're cooking something in a stove, let's say you're sauteing vegetables in a pan. If you just put the pan on the stove, put some oil in, put the vegetables in the pan, and let it cook, you're just gonna have one side is gonna be burnt, the other side is gonna be raw. It's the same thing with your coffee beans. So you have to make sure they're constantly moving. Okay, that's very important for whatever you do. That's why a hot air popcorn popper is perfect for roasting coffee. It's continuously moving them around. Then lastly, the biggest thing is trial and error. Trial and error is really going to dictate your growth in roasting coffee. You have to just go ahead and take that first leap. You're gonna mess up 1,000 times. I can't tell you how many shitty cups of coffee I have drinking because I over roasted it, I under roasted it, I mixed beans that just didn't go well together. I could sit here and say all kinds of ways that I've messed up. And also that partially the brewing process, I wasn't that great either. But anyways, that's really what it's gonna come down to. Get some green coffee, find yourself a source of heat. I don't care if it's an open flame outside in your backyard. If you need to start a campfire, you need to start a bonfire and just put coffee in a tin can and heat it to get you roasting coffee, I say do it, because once you start, it will just continue from there. That's the hardest part. I'm gonna leave you with this. This book right here, The World Atlas of Coffee, I will put a link down in the description. This book is amazing. This is what I read when I was first learning. I have read it cover to cover 2-3 times, and I still go back and reference it all the time. This is such a great read. It gives you such a good look at everything about coffee, as far as how it's grown, where you can get it, how they grade coffee once they import it here, where you can buy it from importers here, how you can roast it, roast levels, how to brew it for different machines, how to grind it for different brew styles. Like, it's just basically anything coffee is in this book. I highly recommend it. With that being said, I'm gonna post a video soon on my setup, everything I have here that I use to roast coffee and make Roasted Coffee Company coffee. I'm gonna put everything so that you guys can see like my setup, what I'm doing, get an idea again, just a general look at what I do. And I've also been wanting to make a video again on how my business actually operates, like how it actually operates. And I mean like the roasting of the coffee, the labeling of the bags, the grinding of the coffee, what equipment do I use? Because I haven't done that in a while. It's been like maybe 1.5 years, 2 years since I posted that one video. So I'm going to make sure that I kind of bring it back, reintroduce it so people can see who I am, what I do. I'll maybe regain a little bit of credibility, because as of right now, I'm just a guy with a camera and coffee. And people are like, all right, cool. I could have gone to the store and bought this coffee, unless you've seen my other video, but who knows now, could be lost. So anyways, hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you're excited for the blog post. If you've been following me, I promise I'm reading the comments. I'm going to make videos based on the questions that you ask. I might do more of a Q&A style video, but please keep interacting. I love it when you guys say that these videos are helpful, when you reach out by email. It makes my heart happy. So please keep interacting, keep commenting, send me emails, ask questions. I'm always more than happy to talk to anybody about coffee, business. Honestly, I'll really talk about anything, so just let me know. But that's it for today. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.